Hello, BookTube. On this episode of my 2024 library tour, I'm going to be focusing on the other side of one of my wall shelves. I have two wall shelves here in my bedroom. One of them is right here. The other one is over my bed. I use that particular wall shelf to house my general genre fiction, which I did yesterday, and my not history nonfiction, which I'm going to be doing today. So most of the books in this part of the tour will be generally science books, although not all of them. So let's get going. First up is 1000 Years of Manga by Brigitte Koyama Richard, translated by David Redzinovez. So this is an introduction to manga from geared towards an audience that is more highbrow, I would say. If you were like somebody who's already interested in manga, or like a young adult getting into manga, this isn't necessarily the book for you. The book is gorgeously illustrated. The history of manga is quite interesting, but when the book gets to contemporary manga, like manga that's been published in the last 50 or so years, it's more disappointing. So this is probably a book that I'm not going to reread and will likely be a candidate for purging at my next book purge or library purge, whenever that happens. The next two books are by Karl Karenyi. First up is The Gods of the Greeks. So this is a retelling of Greek mythology, focusing on the myths of the gods rather than the myths of the heroes. I remember this quite fondly. I have a decided sweet tooth for Greek mythology, and I have a number of books on Greek mythology. It's been a while since I've read it, and I don't know if I should group all of my mythology books together or have them separate. Something I need to think about. But I might do that as a separate video today. The next up is Dionysus' Archetypal Image of Indestructible Life, again by Karl Karenyi. And this is translated by Rolf Mannheim. And let's see here. Third translator on here. I'm not entirely sure who's the translator on that one. So this is, whereas The Gods of the Greeks is a retelling of myths, this book is a scholarly look at not only the mythology of Dionysus, but also the sort of history of his worship, theorizing how he came to Greece. And so the argument I think here, or Karenyi's thesis, is that Dionysus originated as a Cretan god. It's interesting. I have had it for years. This is one of the oldest books I've had in my collection. I bought it way too young, and it took me a very long time to finally read it. And while it's interesting, I don't know necessarily if I buy Karenyi's argument, sort of the theoretical method underpinnings I have questions about. But it did give me some ideas, so that's a positive. Next up is Underland by Robert McFarlane. I picked this up a few years ago for the 2020 BookTube Prize, and it's basically a series of journeys into various underground places that Robert McFarlane went on, and it's quite good. I don't know if I will ultimately keep it though. Sticking with Robert McFarlane, I also have The Wild Places, which is where he takes a journey around Britain, the British Isles, to the various remaining wild places. I didn't care for this as much as Underland, although they are very, very similar. Next is Physics of the Impossible by Michio Kaku. So this is a work of science that sort of extrapolates the possibility of various forms of science fiction sort of elements. So is faster than light travel possible? If it is, or if it could be possible, how would it be done? Cloaking devices, artificial gravity, that sort of thing. Which is largely where I have this book. While my creative focus is far more on fantasy than it is on science fiction, I do sometimes have a thought to write science fiction, and this book I thought would be useful. I remember it fondly, although I haven't read it in years, and I've never actually read this copy, so that's that. Next up are two books by Peter Mathiasson. First up is The Cloud Forest, which is a travel log of Mathiasson's travels around South America. I've had 2 goes at this, and it did not turn out well either time. And this is The Snow Leopard by Peter Mathiasson. This is a travel log of Mathiasson's trips through the Himalayas on an expedition to locate and study the snow leopard. I've had a go at it and didn't get on with it either. Maybe I should try his fiction, or maybe not. Next up is a book that I actually do like, The Red Hourglass, Lives of the Predators by Gordon Grice. This is a delightful look at a number of predatory animals, primarily arachnids and insects, although pigs and dogs are included in the list. But it is really, really good. The Brilliant Abyss by Helen Scales. So this is an exploration of the deep ocean and of its potential for exploitation. Quite good. This is Imagined Life by James Treffel and Michael Summers. So this is an exploration about the potentiality of extraterrestrial life or extrasolar life, and under what conditions intelligence could form, and sort of how in various environmental kind of ecosystems. I don't like it all that much. Definitely a candidate for purging. The next batch of books are all in a series. I have a fairly impressive, well, I don't know exactly how impressive it ultimately would be, but I do have quite a number of the animal series from Reaktion Books. So Reaktion is a UK publisher that publishes, I think, mostly nonfiction, if not exclusively nonfiction. They have a number of series that they publish, which are usually very slim books. I only have the animal series that are filled with illustrations and include a mix of various disciplines. So the animal series basically each book focuses on a specific animal, and the author will look at the biology, the natural history, the history of the animal's reactions with humanity, the cultural and artistic and literary criticism of the animal, the economic potential of the animal or economic exploitation of the animal in varying degrees. Some of them are a bit more on the sort of biological exploitation. Some of them are more literary criticism. It depends, and some are balanced. So this is Rabbit by Victoria Dickinson. I think I've had a go at this and I bailed on it. I have a somewhat mixed reaction to these books. Some of them are really good and I've enjoyed, and some I haven't. This is Hyena by Mikita Brotman. This one is fairly good. And I think in a way, the best of them are the ones are about the animals that are the most sort of unpopular. Moth by Matthew Gandy is really good. I have not gotten to Pelican by Barbara Allen. Cat by Catherine M. Rogers is one of the ones that are pretty much social, cultural, literary criticism about media art that feature the cat. Owl by Desmond Morris is okay. I was hoping for more, but so it was a bit disappointing. I really liked Octopus by Richard Schweid. And I really like Squid by Martin Whalen. Wasp by Richard Jones is a really good defense of the wasp. And again, this is where these some the best books I think are devoted to sort of defenses of and rehabilitation of unpopular animals, and this one is really good. I also really liked Scorpion by Louise Pryke, even though unfortunately the cover design is a bit pitiful because you cannot really make out Louise's name on here, nor can you see the scorpion. Shark is pretty good. It's by Dean Crawford. I do not like Dog by Susan McHugh. This is an instance where McHugh is trying way too hard to make the dog an unpopular animal when that is patently not true. I'm still struggling with A Swan by Peter Young. And Spider by Katarzyna and Sergej Mikulski, which is one of the ones that are, it's basically devoted to social, it's literary criticism about literature and art and film featuring spiders. And it takes a very Freudian approach, and once again, sometimes arachnophobia is caused because your father's a jerk and he has a habit of throwing spiders in your hair when you're a little girl. Okay? There's no psychosexual anything to it. It's just your dad's a jerk and he threw a spider into your hair when you were a little girl. As happened to my mother. Anyway, that was the other half of my wall bookcase or bookshelf. I'm thinking about these books. I think a number of them are likely candidates for purging at my next book purge, and I don't know quite what to do with the Reaction Animal books. A part of me is still tempted to collect them. And if I did, they would be a candidate to put in my headboard bookcase, like the lower shelf, because they would fit in there. But I don't know, because while a number of the books I have enjoyed, I don't know if I would ever actually reread them, and some of them I actively dislike, either because I bailed on them or, excuse me, because I was foolhardy enough to actually read the whole thing, and they're insane. So anyway, BookTube, I will be back with another video soon. So then, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.